Picture this scene. It is the accepted pinnacle of modern life. You have the polished job title, the substantial equity, the meticulously planned future. You are standing in the quiet satisfaction of having secured your life, having locked the doors against uncertainty, having attained that most elusive of human goals. You have settled down. The narrative is complete. The struggle is over. You are finally, definitively, safe. But in this moment of supreme comfort, the world's most notorious pessimist, Arthur Schopenhauer, is leaning in, not to congratulate you, but to deliver a chilling foundational truth. He whispers that this beautiful, settled existence, this sanctuary you fought so hard to build, is not freedom, nor is it happiness. It is, in fact, the most elaborate and sinister trap designed by nature itself. A beautiful cage built specifically to ensure your ongoing low-grade misery and the propagation of a cycle you thought you had escaped. This is the truth that destroys contentment. The moment you cease to strive against hardship, you begin to strive against existence itself. Schopenhauer's philosophy fundamentally rejects the comforting myths of Western civilization, the idea that life has inherent meaning, that human relationships are fundamentally redemptive, or that success brings lasting peace. He introduces us to the tyrannical force that drives all existence, a blind, irrational, ceaseless striving which he terms the will to live, or simply, the will. This will is not a personal choice. It is a cosmological engine, an endless, unconscious force that uses us, every single one of us, as disposable instruments for its singular, relentless purpose. More life, more species, more striving. And the ultimate goal of the will, the most effective bait it uses to trap intelligent beings into continuing its arduous program, is the illusion of stability, the performance known as settling down. We are told from childhood that life is a series of escalating desires, and that achieving them brings a proportional amount of happiness. We desire the degree, we attain it, and feel a brief, fleeting moment of satisfaction. We desire the partner, we secure them, and feel a momentary fulfillment. We desire the mortgage, we sign the papers, and feel a surge of security. Schopenhauer explains this process not as a path to happiness, but as a pendulum swinging inexorably between two poles of human wretchedness, suffering and boredom. Suffering is the state of unfulfilled desire. It is the pain of striving for the thing we lack, the relationship we crave, the money we don't have, the recognition that eludes us. It is the intense, active misery of want. But what happens when we achieve the goal, when the desire is fulfilled? We assume we have entered the realm of happiness. Schopenhauer corrects us sharply. We have merely entered the realm of boredom. The will, momentarily satisfied in that specific channel, immediately collapses the structure of meaning around that achievement and demands new striving. The intensity of suffering gives way, not to peace, but to an empty, hollow stillness that is unbearable precisely because it is meaningless. The house is bought, but now the mortgage payment brings worry. The marriage is secured, but now the initial passion has evaporated into routine, leaving a vast, quiet chasm of domestic monotony. The career peak is reached, but the ambitious climb is replaced by the dull, flat plateau of maintenance. This is the foundation of the sinister truth. The will tricks us into settling down by disguising the cessation of suffering as the arrival of happiness. We are so focused on eliminating the pain of the climb that we fail to notice that the summit is a vacuum. The will needs the species to reproduce, to maintain social order, and to continually expend energy. What better way to secure these goals than to package the entire process of biological and social compliance, courtship, mating, domesticity, financial servitude, as the highest form of personal achievement? The hook of settling down relies entirely on an illusion of finality. It promises a destination where striving ends, a harbor where the ships of desire can drop anchor forever. But according to Schopenhauer, there is no anchor. The engine of the will never turns off. It merely changes gears. If you are fortunate enough to achieve everything society tells you to want, the perfect family, the stable job, the beautiful home, you instantly confront the philosophical horror of having nothing left to distract you from the inherent meaninglessness of your own existence. This is why the happiest moments are often found in the intense pursuit, the active struggle, the focused fight against a defined obstacle, rather than in the quiet aftermath of victory. The will provides temporary meaning through struggle. The moment the struggle ends, the meaning leaks away. The true depth of this philosophical dread is that it applies everywhere, regardless of geography or specific circumstances. We want to know where this perspective is landing. Tell us right now. What city are you listening from? We see you, and we recognize that this internal battle transcends borders and time zones. Now, let us delve deeper into the specific mechanisms of this grand deception. Schopenhauer views the entire structure of romantic love and marriage, the very core of settling down, with extreme cynicism. He argues that romantic love, that overwhelming, often irrational obsession with a single person, is not a feeling generated for individual fulfillment. It is a biological hallucination, a sophisticated mechanism employed by the will to ensure optimal procreation. We believe we are choosing a unique soulmate based on personality and shared interests. Schopenhauer argues that we are unconsciously selecting the individual whose genetic profile is best suited to complement and correct our own deficiencies, thereby producing robust offspring. We are not lovers. We are genetic accountants driven by a blind mandate. The intensity of romantic desire, therefore, must be blindingly powerful precisely because the task, the perpetuation of this miserable existence, is so onerous. This powerful delusion of love makes us endure incredible hardship, commit to lifelong sacrifice, and willingly participate in the entire domestic structure. But the sinister irony, the unavoidable consequence Schopenhauer observes, is that once the primary biological goal is secured, once the children are born or the commitment is irreversible, the will withdraws the illusion. The chemical high evaporates, the obsessive focus dissolves, and the couple is often left staring at a stranger, bewildered by the disappearance of the sublime emotion that brought them together. They are left with the cold, hard fact of obligation and the immense, tedious labor of maintaining the domestic shell. This is the point where the transition from suffering to boredom becomes most acute. The emotional drama of courtship, the suffering of uncertainty, provided intensity and meaning. The settled marriage replaces that intensity with profound monotony. Schopenhauer points out that men and women, once trapped in the domestic arrangement, find that their primary new enemy is the crushing weight of ennui. They spend their days devising small, desperate means of distraction, petty arguments, minor obsessions, meaningless social obligations, anything to push back the dreadful silence that follows the realization that they have achieved their goal and found it empty. The will forces us to seek companionship not for love, but to avoid the ultimate dread, solitude. Schopenhauer famously asserted that the more intelligent a person is, the less they require the social circus, because they possess an inner world capable of providing its own distraction. However, the average person, the one who most actively seeks to settle down, does so out of a deep-seated fear of confronting their own intellectual poverty. They marry, they have children, they fill their houses with noise and people, not because they are overflowing with love, but because they are terrified of the silence that would force them to confront the terrifying emptiness at their core. They choose the predictable, low-grade suffering of marriage over the intense existential suffering of introspection. The settled life is a perpetual running away from self-awareness. Furthermore, the societal pressure to settle down operates as a massive conspiracy of mediocrity. Schopenhauer views society itself as a collection of mutually terrified individuals seeking safety in numbers and conformity. When a person settles down, they buy into the contract of expected behavior, sacrificing potential greatness, radical truth, or profound insight for the sake of social acceptance and stability. The will loves conformity because non-conformity breeds philosophical consciousness, which is antithetical to its blind mission. To settle down means to agree to the terms of the prison sentence. You trade the possibility of genuine liberation for the guaranteed, if miserable, security of the system. Consider the sacrifice. The brilliant young artist or thinker, convinced by the societal narrative, trades the chaotic pursuit of truth for the stable, respectable profession. The intense drive that might have produced a masterpiece is redirected toward purchasing a lawnmower and arguing about property taxes. They achieve the goal of being a responsible adult, but they have killed the part of themselves that had access to genuine, non-will-driven meaning. They are now merely cogs in the will's machine, churning out stability and continuing the species. congratulating themselves on their prudence while their soul slowly suffocates under a blanket of domestic obligations. Schopenhauer makes the brutal observation that the illusion of settling down is most effective because it is a forward-looking lie. During the struggle, we believe happiness is waiting just around the bend, just after the next milestone. But once we arrive, the will immediately shifts the goalposts. The married person now desires peace from their partner. The career achiever now desires escape from their responsibilities. The secured individual now desires release from their possessions. The moment of settlement is the moment the deception becomes obvious, resulting in that widespread, inexplicable melancholy that permeates suburban life. The quiet despair of those who have everything they were told to want, yet feel utterly empty. This emptiness is the will's quiet reminder that you were only ever a means to an end. This establishment of the foundation is terrifying because it removes the romantic gloss from our most cherished goals. Schopenhauer asserts that we are not autonomous agents seeking fulfillment. We are slaves to a blind, striving force that rewards our compliance with temporary relief and inevitable, crushing boredom. The ultimate goal of settling down is not personal peace, but biological necessity and social subjugation. We achieve stability only to find that stability itself is a form of suffering. The suffering of perpetual, directionless striving disguised as contented routine. The sinister truth is that the domestic sanctuary is merely the will's rest stop, a staging ground where we are refreshed enough to participate in the next, mandatory round of the cosmic struggle. You are ready to accept this truth. You understand that this journey into profound thought requires absolute sincerity. Share the phrase, "I refuse the pendulum," in the comments below. Let us know that you see the trap for what it is. You belong here, in this community dedicated to confronting the uncomfortable realities of existence. Click the subscribe button now. We build genuine power together, seeking truth where others prefer comfort, and make certain the notification bell is activated. Prepare yourself for the next installment. We are dissecting the exact moment the illusion shatters, the chilling, immediate consequence of choosing comfort over consciousness. We explore the painful pivot from romantic delusion to resentful reality, and why your children are the ultimate proof of Schopenhauer's dreadful philosophy. We arrive now at the heart of the great illusion, the sinister promise that keeps the machinery of human striving grinding forward. We spoke of the fundamental error, the belief that life is structured like a story, culminating in a final, satisfying chapter labeled settling down. But Arthur Schopenhauer reveals that this final chapter is merely a transition from one form of suffering to another, a brutal bait-and-switch engineered by a power far greater and more indifferent than any individual ego. The mistake begins with misunderstanding the nature of the engine that drives us. It is not reason, nor love, nor spiritual enlightenment. It is the will, the Wille zum Leben, the will to live. This will is not a thought, it is a blind, unconscious, relentless impetus, an energy that manifests as perpetual craving in every living thing. It is the constant, painful tension that demands existence, reproduction, and ceaseless motion. When we pursue the house, the promotion, the partner, or the hefty retirement fund, we are not fulfilling a rational life plan. We are merely acting out the momentary directive of this blind, universal engine. We believe we are aiming for rest, but the will demands action, and it deceives us by packaging its demands as personal achievable goals. Imagine life as a desert journey. We see an oasis in the distance, the goal, the perfect career, the ideal relationship, the moment we can finally settle down. We push through agony, exhaustion, and disappointment to reach that shimmering horizon. But the profound truth Schopenhauer reveals is that the oasis is always a mirage. The moment we arrive, the water either evaporates or we realize that water, once possessed, ceases to be the object of intense desire. The striving stops, but the engine does not shut down. It immediately recalibrates, identifying the next lack, the next necessary discomfort, the next goal we must suffer to achieve. This is the true mechanism of perpetual suffering. When desire is felt, we experience the pain of lack, the intense tension of want. This is the positive definition of pain. But society promises us that fulfilling this desire brings happiness. It does not. Fulfillment is momentary, a brief, fleeting cessation of pain, like a prisoner being momentarily unchained. And immediately following this brief relief comes the second, more insidious form of suffering, the second hideous face of existence, boredom, l'ennui. Boredom is the existential shudder that follows the temporary defeat of the will. It is the weight of sheer existence when there is nothing immediate to strive for. The person who successfully settles down, the one who has achieved financial stability, married the ideal partner, and secured a manageable routine, suddenly finds the grand canvas of life terrifyingly blank. The desperate pursuit gave life definition and momentum. The attainment strips that momentum away, leaving behind a gnawing emptiness. This is why Schopenhauer argued, humanity is perpetually oscillating between the poles of pain and boredom. We suffer the pain of wanting until we achieve the goal, and then we suffer the pain of having nothing left to want. The relentless pursuit of stability, therefore, is not a path to peace. It is merely an engineering trick to delay the inevitable return to the existential vacuum. We trade the acute, focused pain of desire for the dull, pervasive agony of meaninglessness. The sinister truth behind settling down is its function as a societal anesthetic. The Wille zum Leben, operating on a massive biological scale, needs human beings to remain productive, to reproduce, and to maintain the phenomenal world of appearances. It cannot tolerate genuine resignation or cessation of activity. Therefore, society, acting as the will's steward, constructs elaborate illusions. The promise of romantic love, the idolization of career ascension, the sanctity of domestic stability, not because these things lead to lasting contentment, but because they keep individuals focused on tasks that serve the continuation of the species and the phenomenal illusion. Consider the societal imperative of marriage, the ultimate act of settling down. Schopenhauer viewed this institution not as a romantic union based on mutual affection, but as a biological pact, a trap set by the will to ensure reproduction. The dazzling illusion of infatuation, what we call love, is merely the will operating through the individual to secure the most genetically advantageous match for the next generation. Once the biological objective is met, the establishment of the household and the potential for offspring, the dazzling illusion fades. The individuals who believed they were pursuing eternal happiness find themselves trapped in the monotony of mutual existence, navigating shared financial anxieties, domestic drudgery, and the inevitable clash of two separate wills now forced into proximity. They have achieved the goal of settling down, and the supposed reward is the realization that they have merely compounded their misery rather than dividing it. The intense suffering of passionate striving is replaced by the low-grade, constant irritation of proximity and the crushing weight of predictability. This is the point where people realize they exchanged the potential of infinite possibility for the reality of predictable routine. They mistook an anchor for freedom, only to realize the anchor is, in fact, a chain. We see this same pattern in the pursuit of wealth and career stability. The individual struggles for 20 years to reach the pinnacle of their profession, driven by the intense desire for status, security, and the cessation of financial lack. They finally achieve the executive title, the corner office, the massive pension plan. The immediate pain of striving vanishes, yet often a profound and disconcerting sense of disillusionment settles in. The goal, once achieved, reveals its hollowness. The work remains tedious, the politics remain toxic, and the fundamental question, is this all there is, looms larger than ever before. To escape this immediate void, the person frantically seeks new stimuli. They throw themselves into shallow diversions, consumerism, or complex self-imposed hobbies. They buy bigger houses to maintain, faster cars to drive, and engage in elaborate entertainment just to fill the hours. This activity is not genuine happiness. It is the desperate attempt to distract the will, to give it new temporary objects of desire so that it does not turn its attention inward and unleash the unbearable horror of pure, unadulterated boredom. They are running from the quiet room, terrified of what they might find within themselves when the noise of the chase stops. This perpetual oscillation between lack and lethargy illustrates the essential tragedy of the human condition, which is magnified by the delusion of settling down. We are victims of a cosmic joke. We are propelled by a force that cannot be satisfied, and the moment we pause to claim our prize, we realize the prize itself is empty. Schopenhauer argues that the phenomenal world, the world we perceive through our senses, is merely the will's external manifestation. its representation, Vorstellung. We are puppets in a play written by a blind force, and the stage directions include the seductive, deceptive promise of rest. The man who settles down believes he has achieved control over his future, but he has merely exchanged his freedom for a predictable schedule of managed suffering. He has committed himself to maintaining an expensive illusion. He is now bound by the mortgage, the reputation, the familial expectations, and the career path that he fought so hard to secure. Any deviation from this path, a financial risk, a career change, questioning the validity of his marriage, threatens to unravel the entire carefully constructed edifice of stability. Therefore, the person who has successfully settled down is often the least free, the most psychologically constrained. His life has become a defensive operation, a continuous effort to prevent the collapse of his achieved status quo. The will, through the mechanism of societal pressure, holds him captive to the very structure he created for his alleged happiness. He can no longer chase radical experience or profound truth because the cost of failure has become too high. He is paralyzed by his success. Schopenhauer makes it clear, the tragedy is not that happiness is difficult to achieve, but that genuine, lasting happiness, defined as the permanent satisfaction of the will, is philosophically impossible within the realm of representation. The will, being infinite, cannot be satisfied by finite objects. The moment the individual achieves a state of peace, that peace immediately becomes negative, a lack of pain, which quickly transitions into the positive pain of boredom, demanding the cycle to begin anew. We are therefore trapped on a cosmic treadmill. We run to acquire the means of rest, but the acquisition itself requires more running, maintaining, and defending. The dream of the cozy, predictable life is the ultimate trap, because it disguises the will's mandate for perpetual motion under the veneer of comfortable stasis. The individual looks around at the material proofs of his stability, the manicured lawn, the expensive gadgets, the compliant spouse, and tries desperately to feel the contentment he was promised, but the will whispers, "What now? What next?" And in that silent question lies the terrifying prospect of the endless void. This insight dismantles the very foundation of Western optimism and conventional aspiration. If the ultimate goal, stability, leads only to the sterile pain of boredom and the defensive paralysis of maintenance, then the entire pursuit of the good life is revealed as a futile pre-programmed delusion. To truly grasp the sinister truth behind settling down is to recognize that we are not rational agents pursuing happiness, but manifestations of a colossal, unconscious force using us temporarily for its own blind proliferation. The will does not care about your personal peace. It only cares that you keep striving, consuming, and reproducing. And the illusion of settling down is simply the most potent psychological tool it uses to ensure that you continue running on its behalf. We must understand this deep disillusionment before we can even glimpse the path toward temporary escape. The recognition of the futility of worldly goals is the prerequisite for any form of philosophical peace. We must sit in the darkness of this realization that the anchor you sought is the ballast of a sinking ship. The world, as Schopenhauer describes it, is a torture chamber, and settling down is merely the moment the torture shifts from the thumbscrews of desire to the slow, agonizing pressure of the rack of ennui. We are currently tracking the location of every person who is listening to this right now. Tell us where you are listening from. What city and country is providing the backdrop to this profound moment of realization? Knowing that we share this search for truth across continents only amplifies the significance of the next step in our journey. Now that we have fully grasped the profound depth of the illusion, the next and final stage of this dark philosophy requires us to explore the only temporary respite available to the individual trapped within the will's relentless grip. The realization that settling down is a failure does not immediately free us. It merely clarifies the nature of our prison. The escape, or rather the temporary cessation of suffering, requires a radical shift in perspective, a denial of the very things society tells us we must embrace. This is the kind of revelation that changes the foundational architecture of your life. Do not let this insight merely pass through your mind. Engrave it. We must document this shared journey. I want you to immediately drop into the comments right now and type this phrase: "The anchor is a chain." Let that statement serve as your intellectual commitment to recognizing the trap of false stability. You are joining a community of thinkers who refuse the convenient lie. And if this conversation has dared you to question the most sacred assumptions of your life, if the weight of this truth has settled on you, you must ensure you do not miss what comes next. Subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, and turn on notifications immediately. This is not just content, it is a vital decoding of reality, and missing the next part would be a catastrophic surrender to the very illusions we are exposing. Do not defer the pursuit of truth. Make the commitment now, because we are far from finished. Having revealed the sinister truth behind stability, the next step must address the essential question. If all striving is futile, is there any way out? The final part of this series will reveal the terrifying yet necessary mechanism of resignation, the Schopenhauerian antidote. You will not want to miss the final lesson on how to manage existence in a world designed purely for suffering. The next revelation will change how you view every choice you make from this day forward. The true terror of settling down is not the loss of freedom, but the successful silencing of the self. Picture the man, 10 years into the structure he meticulously built. The mortgage paid semi-regularly, the children enrolled in the optimal schools, the spouse present and accounted for, the career stable, predictable, and soul-numbing. He sits in the quiet permanence of his domestic shrine, surrounded by the physical artifacts of success, the tailored sofa, the meticulously manicured lawn, the high-definition television glowing with meaningless distraction. He achieved the goal. He conquered insecurity. And now, in the silence between the manufactured noise, the terrible realization surfaces. He has not merely settled down, he has settled for nothing. This is the ultimate betrayal that Schopenhauer anticipated, the final sinister victory of the will over the intellect. The will, that blind, relentless force driving all existence, demanded stability, demanded survival, demanded reproduction, and demanded comfort above all else. And the intellect, which possesses the capacity to perceive the terrifying cosmic indifference and seek the sublime, was systematically dismantled, bribed, and finally suffocated by the very comfort it helped secure. The will offered golden handcuffs, and the intellect, exhausted by the relentless pressure of existence, accepted them, trading the agonized clarity of truth for the cushioned anesthesia of routine. This spiritual execution is rarely sudden. It is a slow-motion collapse, dignified by respectability and masked by consumption. The climax of this tragedy occurs when the settled man attempts to perform the one action that defines true selfhood: philosophical contemplation. He tries to think deeply about his purpose, about the fleeting nature of time, about the vast silence of the universe. But the settled environment, the fortress of security he built, immediately retaliates. The environment is engineered against thought. If he pauses too long, the demands of the will instantly reassert themselves. A bill needs payment, a leaky faucet needs fixing, a child needs driving, a colleague needs an email reply. These obligations are not merely tasks. They are metaphysical shock absorbers, perfectly designed to prevent the mind from dwelling on the fundamental horror of existence, the sheer meaninglessness that Schopenhauer observed. The settled man has become a servant to his own creations. The house, which was meant to be a sanctuary, is now a financial leviathan demanding 50 hours of compliant labor every week, merely to keep its head above water. The spouse, once the object of passionate illusion, is now a co-manager of the domestic institution, bound by mutual obligation and sustained by shared distraction. The children, the biological imperative satisfied, become the hostages that anchor the man forever to the territory, ensuring he cannot make the radical, disruptive move toward freedom or truth. Every object, every commitment, every relationship is a chain forged not of steel, but of expectation and convenience, making the intellectual escape increasingly impossible. This is the architecture of the velvet coffin: comfortable, quiet, and absolutely final. Schopenhauer believed that the highest form of human existence was the denial of the will, achievable primarily through aesthetic contemplation, losing the self temporarily in art, or rigorous asceticism, denying all desire. The settled man achieves the precise opposite. He maximizes desire management. He doesn't deny the will. He merely structures his life to fulfill the will's basic demands with maximal efficiency. The inevitable result of this successful structure is a new form of torment, the dreadful arrival of languile, or metaphysical boredom. Boredom, in the Schopenhauerian sense, is not merely being uninterested. It is the intellect screaming in the void because the will has achieved temporary equilibrium. When survival is guaranteed, the relentless striving ceases, and the mind is suddenly left alone with the fundamental emptiness of reality. The settled man cannot endure this silence. His entire life has been a relentless effort to fill every void, to schedule every minute, to replace reflection with activity. Boredom, therefore, is the signal that the will's work is done, and the intellect is now free to see the truth. But the intellect, having been malnourished for so long, cannot bear the weight of that truth. So, the settled man scrambles. He turns to the distractions that society provides: television, excessive consumption, social performance, sports fandom, political arguments, anything to inject a synthetic dose of struggle back into his existence, anything to force the will to start striving again and silence the screaming intellect. He becomes a virtuoso of superficiality, terrified of the space between the notes. He seeks validation not in genuine philosophical insight, but in the approval of his peers who are trapped in the identical predicament. He requires their mutual delusion to sustain his own. His quiet life is not a sign of peace. It is the sound of suppression. Consider the societal pressure applied to those who resist this fate. The individual who opts for the solitary intellectual life, the man who rejects the marriage certificate and the mortgage deed to pursue knowledge or creative endeavor, is not celebrated. He is viewed with suspicion, sometimes with open hostility. Society, being a collective manifestation of the will, views any denial of its basic structure as a threat. The settled man projects his own fear onto the free thinker. When will you settle down? Is the veiled question, meaning, when will you join the prison and confirm that my chains are necessary? The refusal to comply is interpreted as a critique of their own sacrifice, and thus, the settled man works tirelessly to pull the outliers back into the fold. This pressure intensifies when the settled man looks back at the person he was, the young man with fire, ambition, and a painful, beautiful clarity about the world's indifference. That memory is dangerous because it provides undeniable evidence of the betrayal. He doesn't mourn the loss of youth. He mourns the loss of potential, the genius that was systematically domesticated and put to sleep. He traded the possibility of the sublime for the certainty of the secure. He chose the slow, predictable path toward death over the agonizing, terrifying pursuit of transcendent meaning, and he did it voluntarily, believing he was choosing happiness. But true happiness, Schopenhauer insists, is a negative state, the cessation of pain and desire. The settled life is a sophisticated mechanism for managing chronic, low-grade pain. The man must constantly manage his spouse's expectations, his children's demands, his boss's schedule, and his community's judgments. He is not free from suffering. He is merely chained to a highly specific, repeatable set of sufferings. When one conflict is resolved, the will immediately generates another, ensuring that the engine of striving never stops, thus preventing the reflective intellect from ever achieving dominance. The settled man is, psychologically, in perpetual flight from his own mind. He seeks the noise of responsibility to drown out the silence of truth. The final, devastating conclusion of Schopenhauer's observation is that the escape route is terrifyingly narrow and deeply antisocial. For the man who realizes he is trapped, there are virtually no respectable middle-class solutions. He cannot simply re-inject philosophy into his routine. The routine itself is the antidote to philosophy. He cannot leave his structure without causing immense justifiable pain to those he bound to himself, which further complicates the moral calculus. The only real philosophical release offered is the path of the ascetic, the deliberate denial of all demands of the will, celibacy, poverty, rejection of comfort, and the embrace of intellectual solitude. This path is defined by suffering, but a suffering freely chosen, elevated by clarity and directed toward metaphysical insight rather than material gain. The choice, therefore, becomes horrifyingly stark. Live the comforting, respectable, but fundamentally false life until death, or shatter the entire structure, including the lives of those dependent upon it, to pursue a lonely, painful, but authentic existence as a truth seeker. This is why settling down carries such a sinister truth. It is the social contract by which man agrees to stop asking the profound questions in exchange for 25 years of guaranteed stability before the final, unavoidable decay. The settled man becomes the ultimate symbol of the will's dominance, a biological success but a philosophical failure. He is the living proof that humanity prefers comfortable self-deception to agonizing self-knowledge. He is the man who achieved everything the world told him to want, only to discover that the successful completion of the lie is the beginning of the real, internal death. He didn't find peace. He merely signed a truce with existence, agreeing to be perpetually distracted until the final curtain falls. The tragedy is that the man who sees this truth cannot unsee it. The knowledge of the velvet coffin, once acquired, makes the padding inside feel less like comfort and more like insulation against the vital air of reality. His choice is the defining one of his existence. Will he maintain the facade for the sake of societal peace and familial security, becoming a voluntary ghost in his own life? Or will he risk universal condemnation and personal ruin to reclaim the agonizing, magnificent burden of the individual intellect? The immense pressure of the will demands compliance, demands silence, demands the continuation of the species over the clarification of meaning. The settled life is merely the will's most successful strategy for keeping the philosopher preoccupied with the plumber. The final line of defense against this spiritual death is refusing to comply with the architecture of mediocrity. We must acknowledge the depth of this sacrifice, recognizing the insidious genius of the societal trap. We are building an alliance of those who see beyond the illusion and refuse the anesthesia of security. Guarantee your place in this lineage of defiant thinkers. Press the like button right now, marking your commitment to this ruthless truth, and subscribe to secure every future revelation we uncover. The only way to combat the power of the will is through the collective strength of the intellect. Show your commitment, your identity, and your non-compliance by writing this precise phrase in the comments below. I refuse the velvet coffin. The darkness runs deeper than you think, explaining not just why we seek comfort, but why we simultaneously sabotage it. Next week, we dissect the philosophy that explains why your worst habits are actually the most brilliant, most tragic defense mechanism your subconscious ever invented against the terrible demands of existence. Do not miss this essential dissection of human self-sabotage.